How did you find a way to run from the city of the sun? You could have stayed, it's only
Hello and welcome to Pro Wrestling Musings. I am Anthony Down Under. I have the great Peter with me today. We have settled our rivalry, not really, but we have put it on the back burner to see if we can coexist in this predictions video. We definitely cannot. So this is the AEW Full Gear predictions. Griff's not here today. His voice is a bit sore, so I'm going to replace him as the hostess with the mostess. And Pete, go ahead and make my day.
Wow, hopefully Ruby Soho will make our days when she wins the AEW TBS tournament. I had to get that in there. I had to. But no, I'm really looking forward to Full Gear. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic card. I mean, it's going to be, if you just look at the cards that I'm looking at right now, it's a stacked show. Just so many great matches on there. There's going to be, so many great moments. I hopefully we'll see on Saturday. Hopefully, with the big finale of a certain Hangman Page taking Pretty Platinum back home to Virginia and do some good old-fashioned cowboy shit along the way. So, yeah, I am really looking forward to Saturday night and Full Gear.
Excellent. So just before we get into the predictions, a couple of things. So first of all, if you want to see our work, go to www.prowrestlingmusings.com. It is the website that we live at, where we have all of the stats, all of our writings, everything goes there. You can also find us on Twitter and obviously YouTube and anywhere you can find your podcast. And listening times, which is Podbean and Spotify, I think we use. Don't quote me on that. All right, so for Full Gear, before we get into this, I want to ask you two questions, okay? So question one, is there going to be a surprise person coming in? Obviously, there's been quite a lot of releases, not the most recent ones because they've got 30 to 90 days, but there still have been some, and obviously there's the whole Ring of Honor stuff happening. Now, they do still have a show, but there's been a lot of suggestions towards a certain few people from New Japan. So do you think that there is going to be a surprise at Full Gear?
The way AEW has been in the last couple of months, it feels like the surprise is going to be no surprise. I think, first off, I think when it comes to New Japan Pro Wrestling, I think it's going to be borderline impossible for anybody from New Japan Pro Wrestling to come in because Okada is wrestling on Saturday night against the artist formerly known as Buddy Murphy, now Matthews, in San Jose.
Cannot wait.
Yeah, so that match is going to be an absolute cracker. But so yeah, I don't think we're going to see anyone from New Japan. When it comes to certain releases, obviously there are a bunch of people who have been talked about. Obviously, there's Wyndham Rotunda. His name keeps on getting mentioned. It got mentioned on Tony Khan's press conference call a couple of a day ago, even, and he really didn't say anything. It's interesting. I said on my debut here on the podcast that I actually thought Wyndham Rotunda would go into Hollywood and become an actor. That was my first real feel with that. And for some reason, I don't think. My opinion on that doesn't change. I think I think we're all more likely to see him in a Hollywood movie than we are in All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah, look, I have heard some reports that he has been rumored to have gotten a lot of interest from Hollywood. So, and the timing at the moment isn't right for it. Like, there's so much out there, and so many people have just bought, a lot of people. So, nowhere really needs him right now. So, if I was him, I'd go do other things and wait until the time is right.
Yeah, I agree. It just feels it doesn't feel the timing's right. It doesn't. Like maybe you don't know what's going to happen in pro wrestling. It's one of those the unpredictability of pro wrestling is what it is. But I don't see any surprises. I just see a very when I'm just looking at my notes for Full Gear, I've got every single match circled with a definite circle on who I've got to win, apart from two matches. But apart from that, I've got I think the beauty of Full Gear is going to be its predictability.
All right. So the second
And that
question.
may not be a bad thing sometimes.
Second question I've got for you. Do you think this is going to be a better pay-per-view than All Out, which was an all-timer?
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, so me being the star nerd star ratings nerd that I am, I don't know. I think there's potential for a couple of 5-star matches. You got Omega versus Page, but this is going to be Page's biggest match of his life. He's going to go all 4 barrels out. He's going to it's going to be the best match of his career. Omega is Kenny's Kenny. He'll do what he'll do. Danielson Miro is going to be a great match. Lucha FTR, that'll be interesting because of styles clashes. I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, I think All Out was probably AEW's best pay-per-view ever. It was one of the best pay-per-views of the last decade, and that's not using recency bias in that judgment. I think we could say 3 months out, best pay-per-view in a generation. That was what All Out was. Is this going to be the best pay-per-view of a generation? No. Will it be one of the top 10? Yes. So, yeah. So, it's high standards. Full Gear's going to be great. It's going to be absolutely awesome.
Oh, yeah. It's very high standards. And I think the thing that's going to really cripple it is the amount of talk about Okada and stuff like that. And fans, especially when they hear, oh, they're hinting, are they coming? Are they coming? And when they don't come, even though they've got legitimate reasons for not being there and no one expects them to be there, it's like, oh, wow, this is yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Okada in a couple of weeks, though. He's in the America for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
He can turn up, and the way the Forbidden Door is. I think a lot of people think the Forbidden Door is one way, everyone to AEW. Not quite. You can see people from AEW going the other way. And it would not surprise me if we saw some AEW representation on January 4th, 5th, and 6th at Wrestle Kingdom. It really wouldn't surprise me. And it wouldn't surprise me in the next couple of weeks post Full Gear if we saw a bunch of things happen, which kind of hints towards, especially Japan opening up. Japan's kind of lightening up their restrictions a bit now. I think so. So I wouldn't spend, you got 3 nights worth of action to do, and we can't have 3 nights worth of Bullet Club shenanigans. So you need something a bit different. So it would not surprise me if we saw some AEW on Wrestle Kingdom week.
I'd like to see some of the women's wrestlers go to Stardom for a little bit, even like just a quick brief, a couple of weeks there, just to get those under the kicks. But anyway, we could talk about this all day. Let's get into what everyone's here for, the predictions. All right, so we're going to start off with the very first match of the card, which is the pre-show or the buy-in match, which is Nyla Rose and Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa. Obviously, all 4 of these are in the TBS Championship. Obviously, only one of them is going to win because, Ruby Soho noticed she's not in there because she's not going to win. So who do you have between these and why?
I see a good. I think it's the first show on the card. It's the first show on the card. I don't know if it's the first show of the arena. I don't know if they're doing dark tapings.
I think they're doing Rampage. They're doing Rampage there this Friday.
Okay, so it'll be the first match the fans will see. It's one of those. It's kind of like you're going to see quite a few heel wins as we go on in the night. It's spoiler alert. I think Baker's is my prediction for the Women's World Championship match. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go heel in the singles win and face in the tag team win. So that's why I think Shida and Thunder Rosa are going to win. And Thunder Rosa needs all the wins she can get, considering she is not going to win the CBS tournaments.
All right, so we've got a couple things to think of here. So Shida obviously got attacked by after the end of her match with Deeb. So her knee is probably not going to be at 100% in story-wise. And obviously we've got Nyla Rose and Jamie Hayter. Jamie Hayter's obviously coming off with a fresh match. Same with Thunder Rosa. I'm going to go the same because I do think that the baby faces will get that big pop to come in. Because remember, the buy-in match is designed to sell anyone a ticket who hasn't bought it yet for whatever reason. Go buy your ticket, seriously. It's going to be great. But yeah, so that's what it's designed for. So I think having the heroes and the big pop at the end of Cheetah and Rosa winning, it just makes sense. And that's what's good. So, all right, so that's
one thing I'll say quickly is, sorry, Anthony, one thing I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something happen with Sheeta's knee to sell the fact that she's going into the quarterfinal match with a big knee injury. That wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you. So that could be a little bit of a caveat in that whole thing that Sheeta ends up winning the match on the WR record, but doesn't help her chances.
Yeah. I think Rose will beat Sheeta because Nyla Rose, to be honest, probably needs to win more than Sheeta does at this stage because she's lost a lot of big matches very recently. So her beating Sheeta and having that knee as the excuse would make sense. And considering Thunder Rosa Thunder Rosa versus Hayter, Thunder Rosa goes through, then you've got Nyla Rose versus Thunder Rosa in the next round. It makes sense again.
Yeah.
And obviously, Ruby Soho's getting beaten, but we'll see. All right, yeah. So that's both of us have gone for the babyface. So not much competition between us here. That's a bit disappointing. So I'm going to put you down for Nyla Rose and Jamie Hayter because I'm running this stuff. So that's who you voted for. Everyone saw it. All right. Next one. Pac and Cody Rhodes versus Malachi Black and Andrade. So this is going to be great because we're going to get Malachi and Pac in a ring together, fighting each other. I wish Cody and Andrade weren't there, but whatever. Who do you think's going to win and why?
This is one of my two which I've got, which I haven't got circled because it's a 50-50. It really is. I think one thing we're going to see is we're going to see Iron Anderson bring out a spine buster on Jose the Assistant's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jose, that's Jose the Assistant's job now in AEW. You just get hit by a spine buster every week. I'm happy with that. But I think when it comes to I'm going to go Pac and Cody just on the fact that I don't see Malachi getting pinned. I think it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Cody get a pinfall in this match and advance his storyline, which I don't know 100% what that story is right now.
I don't think
but I just the thing is that Cody had obviously had his moment when he lost, then he had Arn Anderson giving the telling off and committing arson on his front lawn, and then you had then obviously Cody. The whole idea of the segment was Cody Rhodes comes back a better Cody. So for him to lose matches when he's a better Cody doesn't make sense in wrestling storytelling. It just doesn't. It's a very WWE thing to do. It's not an AEW thing to do. So I don't see how Cody loses this. I really don't. So I think and there's a ton more minds to go in this with FTR and Lucha Brothers and this whole story. There's a lot of stories that can be told in this. So I can't see Cody losing. So yeah, I'm going to go Pac and Cody.
Okay. Well, this is where we have our first disagreement. I think Black and Andrade are going to win because Pac had obviously that big match with Dax just this week, and obviously it was a very hard hitting match. So even if you say you could use that as a bit of an excuse, but I think a couple things are going to happen, which I'd like. The main thing I'd love to see happen is somewhere during the match, Pac betrays Cody and joins Malachi and becomes one of his House of Black members.
Ooh.
I'd love that, but it would make no logical sense because there's nothing setting that up. But as much as I'd love it, it's not going to happen. So I think for this one, for me, I look at, okay, who's sitting where and what are they doing? So Andrade and Malachi both I think on the upward trajectory, and they need some big wins to keep pushing that. Now, Cody, you're right about. I think he's he can't really be pinned at the moment, but he can use a loss. Like, he can use a loss to keep building his story, which is about overcoming those losses, whether that be a partner or whether that be himself. So I think Pac might actually get pinned here, especially because he just did have a really good showing. And to be honest, him getting pinned in a tag match like this would hurt him less than I think a pin against Malachi or Andrade would hurt them. And that's how I come into it.
Yeah, it's really weird. This match might actually have been better off being a 4-way.
This match would better be not. Yeah, like all four, like one, all in all. But yeah, it makes. I don't like it as a tag. This entire story between them has, not really hit anywhere for me personally. But we're here for predictions.
It feels like something for Cody to do, and yeah, it's just this match, because there's a lot of elements to this you can play at, because the Malachi and John Day partnership, while it makes sense if you look at pro wrestling canon as a whole thing, it makes sense, but also it's just two different people. That whole relationship is very weird,
and
you can play off that in a fatal 4-way as a tag. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, it's a weird match to book, and it's going to be a good match. You got four fantastic professional wrestlers in this match. It could be a sleeper for match of the night, but it's just a weird match. And and in a way, it can go either way, because it can go either way. It's one of those.
I've seen a lot of people suggesting, because remember that Malachi said something about someone within Cody Rhodes called Cody Caesar, and said that someone within his own ranks is going to betray him, basically. Whether that's going to be Arn.
That's that. Whether there's no good Andersons. There's no good Andersons
tonight. That's the big thing. So anyway, we'll leave that one. We've got to answer. Okay, so next one we've got is Christian Cage and Jurassic Express versus Super Kliq. Who have you got?
Well, the first thing I've got to say is I'm very happy it's Falls Count Anywhere, because it's a really, it's going to be, I love Falls Count Anywhere matches. There's a lot of scope with it, so I think that's a lot of fun you can see. There's a part of me that thinks it should go to Cage and Jurassic Express, because Jungle Boy needs that big win. In a weird way, I think there was a lot of talk a month or two ago, when the road to Full Gear looked like it was going to be Christian Cage versus Adam Cole, and then Jurassic Express against Young Bucks. That was a lot of those. I think that was on Tony's notepads, the now famous Tony's notepad. I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when I saw that, the first thing that I looked at, I went, "That's Jungle Boy's first big win. It's his first. He'll pin one of the Young Bucks, and we'll see. That's what." But now it's a 6-man. You can see, I don't see that moment happening now. And there's also the big elephant in the room when it comes to Christian Cage and Jungle Boy. Christian Cage is going to turn heel on Jungle Boy. And could Full Gear be the first night of that road to the betrayal almost? Could there be an incident between Cage and Jungle Boy, which sees them lose the match and see Super Kliq win? I think so. I predict Super Kliq to take the pinfall and remain undefeated as a trio in AEW.
I've got Super Kliq as well. I think what they're doing is over. I think you don't want to give Adam Cole a loss yet. He's being built for potential Kenny feud down the line. You want to keep him, that plate spinning, and having him not defeated is going to add a lot into that. To be honest, I think as much as I'd like to see Jungle Boy get that first real big pay-per-view, massive pay-per-view win, I think that's they've got him beating heel Christian Cage down the line.
Yeah.
So, I think Christian Cage, I think out of all of them, Luchasaurus is probably there to take the pin.
Yeah. That makes most sense.
So
that makes sense. You can have a miscommunication between Cage and Jungle Boy, and one of them get pinned, and like one, and just that, in that case, just into the eventual heel turn down the line.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, Anthony, what did you make of the Bobby Fish interaction with the Elite on Wednesday? What did you make of it?
Yeah, look, it was more of a, we know him, but we don't really. He's not elite. Keep him away. Like, you can have, we're cool, but we're not that cool, sort of thing. The main thing is that we've all got to remember, Kyle O'Reilly's contract is up in December. Now, this was on one of the Fightful's reviews. So Sean Ross Sapp said that if he had to, like, he was put on the spot, so it's not thingy, but he said he's about 70% sure Riley's leaving. And like, if you look at NXT and where he is and what everyone else is doing, why wouldn't you? Like,
Yeah.
So, him having Kyle O'Reilly back with Bobby Fish and Adam Cole versus Young Bucks and Kenny, or even Kenny with Bobby Fish and with Red Dragon and this versus the Super Kliq. You've got so many different ways that could go, and this is just the start of it, and I'm very excited about that. So, it was just a teaser for where they're going.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, Cole is going to need something to do to keep him away from titles, and into an elite civil war is probably going to be what's going to take up some time to keep them all away from titles for a while.
Yeah,
and it's not that long. So,
There's a lot of factors in this which could be very interesting going forward. I think it's I thought that interaction timed when it was very interesting. I just thought that like just a couple of days out, it made a lot of sense because like Bobby Fish taking out Jungle Boy the way he did, was he doing kind of like Adam Cole going like, "Oh, hello, Bobby, I remember you from like."
Don't forget,
it was just
Jungle Boy has a match on Rampage this week versus Bobby Fish, so even more could be potentially done to him this week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's a low key interesting story for the next couple of months. That's going to be good. I'm going to look forward to that.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston, the match that has been built by the power of their just amazing promos, just the promo work alone in this between the two of them, and then Eddie's personal thing. And if you haven't read it yet, go read Eddie's basically like a short autobiography. It is everything that we really need today. Honest, had a cry while reading it. It was so emotional, so real, and it's just brought forth a lot. Go read that, and then go watch his promo stuff on the road to Full Gear. It's just amazing. So, yeah, who do you have for this one?
I love Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston is I love Eddie Kingston. There's a lot I can relate to him with. I adore him, but CM Punk's my guy. I love the story. I can't tell you how much I just how it all started a couple of weeks ago when Eddie lost that match to Bryan Danielson. A week after about a week and a bit of Bryan Danielson being quite unpleasant to him. Let's be honest. Bryan Danielson was very unpleasant to Eddie Kingston during that week and a half. But it was just stuff. But it was stuff that Eddie Kingston had heard in his head for 15 years. I mean, I don't know if you know the story about Punk and Kingston from IWA Mid-South. I don't know if you know that story, which is kind of like...
I do. I actually read a tweet about it the other day, actually. Just like before we recorded, actually. So
yeah, no, it's like that story, and like how and that was probably in his mind because CM Punk said some pretty brutal stuff to Eddie Kingston in IWA Mid-South, and that was in his head. And then he was like walking after a heartbreaking loss to Bryan Danielson. He walks in and he just sees CM Punk, the new CM Punk, the happy-go-lucky. He's so happy. He's got a smile on his face. He's content in his life. He talks to Tony Schiavone. He's talking about, it's Halloween. How much he likes Halloween. How much he likes being in Boston. He's smiling. He's happy, and he sees Eddie Kingston, and Eddie Kingston almost like CM Punk smiled at the wrong person at the wrong time in Eddie Kingston, and Eddie Kingston saw something from his past after the last week of his life when he probably was in the lowest point mentally, and all hell broke loose basically.
Yeah.
And I just think the whole thing, and Punk, Punk would, we were seeing glimpses of the old CM Punk as well in this whole thing, like him demanding the apology for the heinous sin of taking his interview time.
Yeah.
That's egotistical on CM Punk's side. And just that whole... And I loved Wednesday nights pull apart in the car park. I love running Eddie Kingston. I'm not going to lie. Love running Eddie Kingston. That's a meme in itself. I'm sorry. What I want for this one, I don't want a 20-minute match. I want a 10-minute brawl. I want them to beat that. Just have a fantastic brawl for 10 minutes. And CM Punk has to win because the story of Eddie Kingston is he loses the big matches.
Yeah. I 100% would agree, but I can't go against Eddie because he's my guy. Like, I grew up on CM Punk, yes, but as soon as I saw Eddie the first time on AEW, he's my guy. So I have to go him because I can't bet against him. And I think the fact that this is so close just shows how over Eddie is. The fact that people wouldn't be upset if he was CM Punk's first loss. Like, it's fine. Like, people wouldn't be upset about it. So, I think that's a testament to him as well.
Yeah, no, I think the CM Punk story doesn't allow him to lose a match.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. I think that the telling of the story is he can't lose at the moment, so I think he'll win. But if Eddie did win, it'd be just amazing. Let's move on to the next one. This one for me, I still don't know who I'm going for, but Darby Allin versus MJF, the two of the four pillars of AEW. Who have you decided to go for?
Darby. They both need a win. After both lost their big matches at All Out. I think when it comes to the story, I think MJF's loss makes more sense than Darby Allin losing because obviously we got the story with Wardlow and the accountability buddy, and there's a story going on in the background with Wardlow and Sean Spears and MJF, and I think that's quite interesting. And even though little hints of it, like even on Dynamite with Sean Spears, and I think an MJF loss makes a lot more sense right now in the AEW story, and I think right now I would personally. Darby Allin also needs to get his revenge after after MJF's pretty nasty and pretty scathing comments to him over the last, So yeah, I think we're going to see a Darby Allin winning this.
Yeah, I've got MJF.
Oh, wow, okay.
So the reason for that is that one of the biggest things that MJF always says is that no one has beaten him in the middle of the ring without shenanigans. And if you think of the reasons he lost, Moxley used an illegal move. Jericho got a restart after he'd lost. Another ref came out who just happened to see that he got to the rope. So, there's shenanigans in the ways that he's lost. So, and I think that's a really big thing for him to be able to say. And I think if he lost it, I think just for MJF, I think he's more close. it really depends for me on this one on how soon they're wanting to put the title on MJF or a title on him. And that's really going to depend on if you're going to do it sooner rather than later, he's going to win this. If they're going to hold off on for a bit, then Darby's going to win. And I think that's what it really comes to, because both of them have a legitimate case of who could win this and why they should win this. I feel that personally, I think MJF is probably going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. But yeah, I think it's more comes down to who, if MJF is going for that title sooner rather than later.
But one thing I'll say is that with it's interesting. I think one thing that's going to happen. I think when it comes to the whole when you go through do you go through the left turn or the right turn, or when it comes to decision making, I think if MJF loses this, I think he'll definitely lose the Dynamite Battle Royal.
Yeah.
Because that's been his thing for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And then Wardlow costs him that accidentally, and then you go that continues that story. I just think Darby Allin has. It's interesting because you mentioned the point about MJF not losing without shenanigans. Obviously, you gave the two examples. I think it's one of those things. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about 4 pillars in the last couple of months in AEW post All Out. And Darby Allin is one of those 4 pillars for the future.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have somebody, if you want to build up Darby Allin going forward, all you have to say is he's the first guy to beat MJF. And also you talk about not losing the match without shenanigans. Technically, Wardlow costing him the victory is part of that story of him losing all the shenanigans, because he can rightfully say, hang on, if this dummy right here, and he can say that, and Wardlow gets angry, Sean Spears has to be the guy that calms him down because that's his job. You've got a lot of good interplay going on between that going forward in the MJF story. And it's one of those things, MJF, in a weird way, is a better character when he does lose, because what happens is, what we saw when he lost to Jericho, is he got vile in the weeks after that. What he said about Brian Pillman Jr.'s mum, what he said about Darby Allin's past, he got really, when he loses, he's a petulant child. He's a horrible, petulant child when he loses. And I think, I think MJF ends up just being worse as a human being, if that's possible.
See,
if he loses.
For me, I always imagined that Wardlow turn would happen while MJF had a belt. So, because I feel it would be much more impactful, but maybe he could cost, the turn could happen right when MJF was either going for a belt or defending one, that would add so much more to that. So I don't think him is, it could add to the seeds of, the seeds that they're obviously planting, but we'll have to see. It's such a hard one. So we'll move on to the next one. This one is pretty clear cut for me, but Lucha Brothers versus FTR. Now, you said that you were having a little bit of a hard time with this one. So I'll go first with my one. Lucha Brothers are going to win, and then we're going to see this match again for the AAA title in Mexico in a very short time for the AAA title. So, we're going to get this match a couple of times. So, Lucha Brothers for the win, because I don't think that they're ready to end their reign just yet.
I think we're not a wise because I actually 100% agree with you.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Lucha's. I think Penta and Phoenix are going to take the victory. I think you're right when it comes to. I don't think we're going to see FTR versus Lucha Brothers in Mexico for a while, because
they've already announced it.
Have they already announced it? Oh, well,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Sorry, I completely missed that. Apologies. Is that the Triple Mania? Whatever it's called, the Triple Mania. What is it? Triple Mania event, or whatever they're calling it.
They've announced them to in a rematch for the AAA title. So, that's where I think that the FTR will get a win again, and then that way they'll keep the AAA titles for a little bit, because I think that they're going to have a good run with those, because it's absolutely great that they're the best luchadors and they don't flip around on that. And I think that story's got a lot to run. And to be honest, Penta and that have held them for ages. So let Penta and that run with AEW for a while, and let FTR go off and do luchador shit for a while. I think that's the go. So before we move on to the next one, which is my least excited match, quick pause to show a sponsorship video from. Now that the sponsorship is over, that Thunder Rosa is going to be the TBS champion, and that was see,
Aussies, honestly,
100% guaranteed. And Ruby, so see, it says here on this sponsorship, paid sponsorship, Ruby Soho can't win. Yeah, sorry, like.
I go, Ruby Soho winner is more guaranteed than an England win against Australia in the rugby on Saturday.
I don't even care about the rugby. I've never even watched it. So you're shooting up the
I'm just being a heel now.
All right, let's move on to this one. I've got to say, and this is from one of the Pro Wrestling Musing contributors, Gareth, who has, I think, the best take from the Inner Circle interview, that in this current feud, Chris Jericho had the best promo this week because he didn't say anything. And it was perfect. It was great. So before I ask you the question, I need to give you a fact. This is a legitimate fact. So we've got Inner Circle, Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, Santana, and Ortiz versus Men of the Year, which is Ethan Page and Scorpion Sky, and American Top Tier, which is Junior Del Santos, Andrade Arosowski, and Arlovsky, and Dan Lambert. Now, a couple of things. So the other person that's been involved in this, who keeps running his knee into Jericho, I can't remember his name.
Jay Masvidal.
I'm not an MMA guy, so don't mind me. Apparently, him or someone in that were meant to fight in UFC and called off because they're injured. So I doubt that they're going to interfere, because UFC would be kind of pissed. The next one, so this is a Minneapolis street fight. However, the fact that I need to give you before you make your decision is that Dan Lambert is currently undefeated in a wrestling ring. He has never lost a match, and hang on, the two people he's beaten. He's defeated James Storm in a career versus career no holds barred match, and this is the best one. Him and Bobby Lashley defeated James Storm and the current Impact champion Moose. That's right. Dan Lambert holds a victory over the current Impact champion Moose. So, with that knowledge that Dan Lambert has not been defeated in a wrestling ring, who do you think is going to win in a wrestling match?
Well, I think Dan Lambert's going to have his first loss as a professional wrestler. I think, this is all set up. I think we have different opinions about this feud to a certain extent. I think there's some things which I agree with you on, but as a broad stroke, I'm not against this feud. I like some of the ideas that actually haven't even been talked about. Like, I like the idea of all this talk about the Forbidden Door and everyone talking about New Japan and Impact and AAA coming in. That actually, it also included the sport of MMA, but busting their way through the door. That was quite interesting to me. I think I haven't heard many people talking about that. So I like that element of this feud. Some of the things that have been said, I wasn't a big fan. I was not a big fan of Jericho's OnlyFans joke for a lot of reasons, but I can go on for about an hour talking about why I didn't like that line. But when it comes to this feud, if you look at pro, if you look at the pro wrestling staples and what it needs to be, Dan Lambert needs to be beaten up big time by the Inner Circle. He needs to be beaten up. He's been running his mouth for months on end, and for the fans, the point of this match is for Dan Lambert to be put into the walls of Jericho. That was even made even more apparent by what happened on Wednesday when Dan Lambert put his Boston Crab on Chris Jericho. Okay, I can do a better Boston Crab than Dan Lambert, but that's a story for another time. But this whole thing just makes sense for Jericho to make Dan Lambert tap out to the Boston Crab.
Yeah. For me, in regards to the story, I've said a lot and I've still got a lot to say about it, but the concept of this I really like. I like the idea of American Top Team coming in. I am for that. I think that it's a brilliant idea bringing the UFC guys in and getting them to mix it up with some wrestlers. And the way it's, there's issue with it, and we're not going to get into that because this is predictions. But I agree that the Forbidden Door, shouldn't just be for wrestling or wrestlers, but UFC as well. And I think it's gonna do nothing but help AEW at the end of the day. In regards to who's winning, I think we're gonna see the Men of the Year and American Top Team win. Couple reasons. So first of all, their win will give them another opportunity for them to put Scorpio Sky against Sammy for the TNT title. They'll give him another opponent. It will give Jericho something further to do because obviously they're building up Jericho versus that other guy or one of these guys in a one-on-one match. Junior Dos Santos has said openly that he wouldn't mind doing some more wrestling. So, having him come in and do some more wrestling, I think a win will help with that as well. I just feel that a win for the Inner Circle doesn't a win could help, but they've not been a group or a faction since they won what was it called Stadium Stampede, so
Yeah.
they've not really had much to do with each other, so they don't really need the win. Where I feel that Men of the Year and American Top Team, especially if American Top Team is still gonna come in, and if you're gonna keep having Dan Lambert come in, a win would just project them even more. And look, you could end up having Jericho trick Lambert into potentially a one-on-one match or something down the line to get his comeuppance. But I think if you're wanting a big heel unit, considering we're getting a really happy send off, I think that having some a heel victory is probably gonna obviously set people up. So yeah, look, it's a bit of a hard one for me. I think for me in my mind it makes more sense, but like I said, to be honest, I don't care.
Can I make this point? Okay, I don't know how much of the Andy Kaufman Jerry Lawler feud do you know about? Because I watched Jerry Lawler versus Andy Kaufman in the 1980s. Their big views in Memphis wrestling. How much do you know about that? Okay, no. So basically, just a quick micro, a small taste, a bit of a primer on it. Andy Kaufman went into. He was a famous comedian in America, and he went into Memphis wrestling, and he would have matches again, literally run his mouth and take the mickey out of Southerners and Memphis and stuff like that. And then he would have these intergender matches against people from the crowd. He would pin them, and then Jerry Lawler was like, "Okay, take somebody. Yeah, take on. Can you be an actual? Can you actually take on somebody, an actual professional wrestler?" They had a match. Jerry Lawler pole drove him. Came with the pole driver. Andy Kaufman got taken away in an ambulance. They made a massive gate in the Mid-South Coliseum, made a lot of money. That was it. I guess that should have been the feud. But then Andy Kaufman came back, and it wasn't the same. It just was not the same because everyone got that big ending. Everyone got that big ending. It was a happy ending. Andy Kaufman got his just desserts. And I feel the same with Dan Lambert. It's kind of like he should be beaten up by the Inner Circle, have the Boston Crab put on him tap out, everyone celebrates, and we don't see Dan Lambert not over a game, but not for a while, because if he just keeps on, we just get boring and just get so boring if Dan Lambert turned up every week, and he would get stale. As talented as Dan Lambert is, it would get stale if he turned up every week and did Dan Lambert things.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, what I would personally do is, and this is a bit of a micro prediction in the macro prediction of Inner Circle winning, I think Paige Van Zandt turns up during the match, interferes, and then you've got one of the AEW female wrestlers coming out and running her off. And that sets something up going forward with who is probably the biggest star in the actual in this whole ATT invasion. Paige Van Zandt has been the home run hitter in this. It makes so much sense for AEW to have her. It makes a lot of sense for Paige Van Zandt to go into AEW, and that's your story going forward. You don't need Dos Santos, you don't need Orlovsky going forward. You need Paige Van Zandt, and I think Paige Van Zandt interfering. Somebody in the division wins her off. That's your match going forward.
But if, in the same case, if you had her interfering, which I'd love to see, and her take out Jericho, and then that lead to the victory, then he gets his just desserts for what he's been saying about her, which I think would pay off a lot more.
If Jericho was the heel, yes, and
He is a heel.
By the way, I some of the things I dislike some of the things that Jericho has said about Paige Van Zandt. I dislike them,
but
but you know what I mean. It's like if he was that doesn't make sense in pro wrestling structuring. It doesn't make sense that by the way, Paige, I agree with you. The OnlyFans comment was hot. I did not like that comment one bit last week. I really didn't. But in AEW in the AEW universe, Jericho's the face, Paige Van Zandt is the heel. I think Van Zandt, Jericho needs to get his revenge on Dan Lambert and causing him so much chaos in his life for the last month and a bit. And I just don't see how we can extend this feud going forward. I just don't. I think sometimes you can just run the car too long. It's just like this is the perfect stop-off point in this feud, and then Jericho can get if you want to continue the feud, I know. I just don't know. I don't see any point in continuing this feud post Full Gear. I just think the Full Gear is Saturday night. It's perfect. Indeed.
I'll just remind you that Orange Cassidy and Matt Hardy are still feuding.
Yeah, but who cares about Matt Hardy?
So
that's all I'm going to say. Who cares about Matt Hardy?
They could extend it. There's ways to do it. I just feel that a win for the Men of the Year side leads to a lot more than a win from the Inner Circle side, especially if you're going to keep Top Team and Dan Lambert around a little bit longer. But it really depends. So let's move on to the next one. The American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, versus Miro, who is going to murder a man. Who have you got?
Miro. It just makes sense. Bryan Danielson does not get hurt by a loss here.
No.
Miro has a good story, and there's a lot of sense that goes into this story. But when it comes to, I think it makes sense if Danielson does not get hurt by losing in this match. Miro does. And and again, we talk about logical booking. If we sort of we kind of hinted at it a couple of times during this recording, during this podcast. I think we both know how Full Gear is going to end. And
yes,
right, but the thing is, we know how it's going to end. So who's Adam Page's first? Hypothetically, if a hero should win the world title match in the main event, his first title defense needs to be against a heel, and that heel is there. It's Miro. And I think had God bless it, John Moxley was available to wrestle. Good luck at John Moxley in his fight against what he's having to deal with right now. Had John Moxley being at Full Gear, he would have won. And I don't see any change in I don't see the pencil being rubbed out, but Miro wins. It just makes no sense right now.
yeah. Look, I'm on the exact same side. I think it was Brian was always going to lose this.
Yeah.
And the way he can put it in is the fact that he has been working on every show. And he did just have a really good match this week. So, Miro is ready to go for that title, the big one, and is going to be a really good feud between him and Hangman. Spoiler for later, but I don't think we've
hypothetically
very much. But yeah, look, Miro for the win makes the most sense. I think that the idea was for Brian to lose all the entire time. So yeah, I think Miro for the win, and after the promos he's been cutting, he deserves that win so much. So let's move on to the second to last match. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, yeah, cool, versus Ty Conte. So Britt's winning this.
Yeah.
Look, to be honest, I love Ty Conte, and I know that she will be a champion one day. The biggest issue I have is during that the three-way match that they had on Dynamite this week, the commentators were too busy talking about Thunder Rosa. They even mixed up on the entrance saying that Thunder Rosa was the number one competitor, not Ty Conte. So, they've in their minds they've already moved on, and it's not a particularly good look when they've not really had that moment. Like a lot of these ones, they've had really good stories, or they've had their moment. They've had matches and that against each other. Sure, they've said a few things on social media, but I don't think that it's it just goes into the whole the issue with AEW and the women's division, which is still unfortunately there. They are doing better, but they're not doing as good as they can. But yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. But look, it's going to be a great match. Ty Conte is amazing. Is really going to put Britt and allow Britt to show what she can do as a wrestler, a wrestler instead of the promo. So, I've seen a few people say, "Oh, she's not that good of a wrestler." Well, she's about to show you that she is.
No, I think it feels very much like Ty Conti is the number one contender of the month.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. It's like she happy. It's kind of like the TBS tournament. Obviously, the banter between us two about who's going to win it. Obviously, it's like that has kind of like dominated. Oh my goodness sake! All right, but no, the TBS tournament has really, really like taken the real like dominance of the women's division in the last couple of weeks, as it should. As it should. No, and it just feels like whoever was number one in the rankings is going to face Britt Baker, and they're going to have a match, and Britt Baker's going to win. Yeah. And then what? You know what? I'm trying to think. You asked me earlier about surprises going forward. I'm trying to think, is there any women on the free agency block right now?
Not that unless they get someone from Ring of Honor, but like I said, they've still got another show. They've all got like 30 days, and the only ones that would have been like TV ready would have been the former Iconics, and they're already at Impact. So
Yeah, Impact.
and they're not really a singles group, so yeah, I don't think there's anyone that would be unless they're getting someone from Stardom, like a big person from Stardom, all that to come over.
That'd be interesting.
I have a few names. One of them being one of the best wrestlers in the entire world, who had a 5-star match not too long ago. But she's busy at the moment, so I highly doubt it's her. But yeah, look, I don't.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think. It's hard to find.
I don't think there's anyone. Yeah, I don't think there's anyone. I know. Obviously, in a couple of months, there will be some people. But right now, there's no one. So, yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where it's just, oh yeah, let's just do the match because it feels like they know that they have to do the match, so they're just gonna do the match and not give us anything with it. And that's the issue that I have, that they haven't put in the time or energy that they've done for all these other ones, and that's the issue. So, all right, let's move on to the hardest one. This one's neither of us had an idea going into it. Kenny versus Hangman, so close to call. Don't know which way I'm going to go. 100% surprised. Peter, who do you have?
I don't know. I wish I could do a Bully Ray impression, so I can say Kenny Omega in my Bully Ray voice, but no. There's only one person. It just makes all the sense in the world. It has to be Adam Page. It just has to be.
Hangman or we riot?
Yeah. Sorry?
Hangman or we riot?
Yes, indeed. It's just everything makes sense from where, if you look back at how the story's been told, you can, there's always a right moment to crown a new champion. We've seen it in a lot of companies. Naito, after he won the G1 in 2017, and he was the number one contender for for the world title against Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 2018, and he lost that match. And what he did when he won the world title the next year, it was a year too late. Naito, 2 years actually. Sorry, 2 years. 2 years after he was supposed to win it, he won it, and he just didn't work because it was 2 years too late. Sometimes those perfect moments where you need that the hero babyface to win the world title, and Saturday nights, Adam Page has to win. He has to.
Very similar thing with Braun Strowman, that they held off way too long for his title reign for him to finally get that big one, and he only got it because Roman wasn't there, and he should have had it a long time before that, and by then it was all that heat was gone. So yeah, look, Hangman has to win this. There's nothing left for this story to tell, other than the ending. Now, the final thing before we go. Tell me the worst prediction that you can on how this match is going to end with Hangman losing.
So, actually, you know what? Okay, so the worst prediction I can come up with is Hangman wins, but apparently for the last 2 years, that diamond ring that MJF has, it actually has a cash-in value, and you can cash it in. Tony Khan comes out, says, yeah, it's fine, go. MJF cashes in, beats Adam Page with literally within seconds, hits salt of the earth. Adam Page taps out. MJF is your new champion. We have a heel GM in Tony Khan, because he rectified it, and Tony Khan's now a heel because he rectified it. And MJF is the champion. Tony Khan makes things, always fixes it for MJF to keep on defending the title for 2 years. And, you know, because as Bully Ray once said, heat always wins. You always need to have heat in pro wrestling, apparently.
Okay, that one's actually going to be hard to top. That one's I like that a lot. Okay, so Kenny picks up Hangman for the one-winged angel and then hits it, right? However, the two, he kicks out of it. However, the hand goes down a third time and he gets called. And everyone's like, what? He lost. How could he lost? Aubrey stands up, who's officiating, very important here, and I'll go through the backstory in a moment. She gets up and Hangman looks over and notices that she's wearing very expensive, very red shoes. And then the Young Bucks walk out and hug, they all hug and look at Hangman, all standing over, and just say, this was destined to happen. You can't beat us. And then Aubrey looks at them, puts out the hand, envelope in the hand, and walks out. Paid off. Man. Red shoes, heel ref. Now, in some of the vlogs, there's been some joking around that she's taking bribes. So this pulls into all that. So Aubrey becomes the new official officiator of all the Elite's matches because they're buying her expensive shoes and stuff like that and clothes. You know, she becomes the Elite rep. And
does that make Aubrey Edwards the 2021 version of Nick Patrick?
Yes. And that's how we end with Aubrey Red Shoes, and that's going to be her Twitter handle, by the way. Aubrey Red Shoes Elite, being the dastardly heel ref that costs Hangman the match, and then basically that's how you end the pay-per-view.
Oh.
Now I'm going to go cry. So Peter, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you?
Well, my Twitter handle is @PeterEdge7.
I actually meant your home address so they can come visit you.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. Yeah. @PeterEdge7. I just retweet loads of stuff, so it's a fun. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better at Twitter, everyone. I'm trying. I'm trying. But also I'm on ProWrestlingMusings.com. I do a couple of power rankings for the site. I do the men's power rankings, which will be up on Sunday, the day after Full Gear, with all updated with the results of Full Gear. So if you want to know how basically the landscape of AEW might look post Full Gear, just keep an eye out for Sunday, and we'll get something. It'll escape my account, my laptop into the Pro Wrestling Musings website, so you can have a good read of that. Also, I just put an article up earlier in the week, which is the top 10 wrestling tournaments of all time, but pretty timely considering all the tournaments going on in pro wrestling right now. So yeah, it's basically top 10 tournaments of all time. Spoiler alert: a G1 Climax 1. Spoiler alert. I know that's a big shock for everyone, but lots of different tournaments from a lot of different companies. I actually had someone contact me to actually say I actually kind of awakened their knowledge of WXW and their 16 karat gold tournaments that takes place in Germany, which is a lot of their past tournaments has a lot of people in it who you might see on current wrestling programming. So good. I'm really proud of that article. So go and read it. It's really a good article. I really enjoyed doing that one.
Awesome. I'm going to spruik a few things. So on our Twitter, which is obviously Pro Wrestling Musings, and on the website we currently have Sergi's Styles Makes Fights, which is a great breakdown of styles clashes and how it creates a fight and what you can expect from it. Obviously, he's covering Kenny versus Hangman, so that's going to be a deep dive. You've got Timothy's AEW Dark 2021 current wrap up, which looks at everything that you want to know about Dark and Elevation. Always a great read. And Grayson's Why Adam Page's Cowboy Shit is a draw for millennials. Deep dive into that, which is a fantastic read as well. Obviously, Peter's own stuff. And also my most recent article after a while, which is a full rundown on did AEW really help Impact, which is a full numbers-based breakdown of why and if AEW did actually help them and all the metrics. So I looked at Twitter, YouTube, TV ratings, pay-per-view buy-ins, Twitter engagement factors, Google trends, all the data that you could ever want. Damn it. And yeah, it's a good read. So make sure you check out all of them.
I fully endorse that.
Make sure you check out all of the articles. A lot of time and effort's put into them. Also, make sure that you will look out because Craig, the master of the stats, will have the stats for Full Gear up on the website as soon as he gets around to it. Obviously, always a great read, seeing the stats for every match. So we will be back with a AEW Full Gear review show. If Griff, I forgot his name for a moment. I'm already replacing him. If Griff is better, he will be hosting. If not, then it's probably going to be me again, and I might even rope Peter back in here just so I can laugh at all the wrong choices he's made tonight, which is he chose all the losers, by the way, just to let you know. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this predictions video. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, follow the podcast, do all the things. You know what you need to do, so go and do it. And yeah, have a good night and good day and enjoy Full Gear. I know I will. Bye.